What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we have a brand new car from Hosim. Now this is actually their first 1/10 scale brushless RC car. You may be thinking to yourself, man, I've seen a lot of brushless cars from Hosim, but this is the first 1/10 scale. I've reviewed the 1/16 scale, and I believe they have maybe a 1/14 or 1/12 scale, I'm not too sure. I'll link those videos up above if I can find them, and those ones are one of my favorite brushless cars from Amazon for the price at about $120 to $130. Now this one right now currently comes in at $180 on Amazon. I'll leave a link down below to that, or you can get it directly from their website for $199. I'm very interested to see what they did with this car, because taking a quick look at it, it looks like they completely redid the chassis and the layout of all the electronics. So let's dive right into the B-roll montage, and then we'll take a look at what comes inside the box and inside the truck. So here it is on the bench, the 1/10 scale X-07 from Hosim. This thing looks really awesome, but it also takes a lot of inspiration from some of their older models. Right off the bat, you can see that these tires are often put on a bunch of Hosim and legendary RC cars, a lot of the cars that you see on Amazon. A tried and true tire, I guess, for them. They didn't really want to change too much and go with something completely different, but they look pretty good on here, especially with the red body. Speaking of the red body, if you do not like red, they also give you a blue body in the box. Now both bodies come with a protective coating on it. I took it off of the red one. As you can see, it's a bit shinier than the blue one. That's because obviously my color's red. It is nice that they give you two bodies in case you scratch one up, or if one color is your favorite over the other, you have two bodies to use. Some other things to note before we take the body off and check out the inside: we have a nice LED bar right up front. I am a little bit concerned that there's nothing protecting this light bar. It looks like the board is kind of all exposed here, so if you get that wet, just be careful. You might short something out, but I guess we'll have to take this thing through some mud to see if that is true. Holding that nice LED bar in place is a nice big sturdy bash bar up front. This is completely plastic, but very thick and stiff plastic, so I think that's going to take a lot of abuse. And on the rear here we have a wheelie bar. It is not adjustable, but it does have some flex to it, as well as the rear spoiler. You can see this thing has a ton of flex, which is good because if you're going to be bashing this thing pretty hard, this thing won't break. So good to see that there. One more thing on the other side of the car here, we'll peel off this sticker, and we have a nice big aluminum skid plate there. A lot of abuse is going to be taken on that part of the chassis, so they beefed it up with a nice aluminum piece there, which is nice. So let's take off these bodies and see what else we can find inside. As you see, as I keep picking it up and putting it down, it looks and feels like these shocks are friction shocks. I don't believe there's any oil in them. They are super bouncy. You can see this thing has a ton of recoil. I wish they went ahead and upgraded those. I've been saying that, and a lot of other creators have been saying that on these budget cars. If they could just provide oil-filled shocks, and more so the big bore oil-filled shocks, the ones that they put on some of these that look like this, that hold oil in them, they seem to kind of fill them with grease, and they don't really do the job too well. But just something to note, these are friction shocks. There are a couple adjustability points on the top here on the shock tower. There are no adjustability points on the bottom here. Same as the rear. Shock tower adjustability points and nothing on the bottom. Before we get into the electronics, let's talk a little bit more about the chassis. Now if you look up front, we do have some toe adjustability here. There's no camber adjustability. These top arms here are fixed plastic, but The toe in and toe out can be adjusted here with these aluminum linkages, which is nice and something that I haven't seen on some of the other Hosim cars. Some other aluminum parts to note on this car. We do have front and rear aluminum hubs, which is really nice to see. Those tend to break when you're bashing on some of these budget cars, so it's good that they upgraded those with aluminum, but that will put a little bit more stress on these arms, both the front and the rear. So just be wary if you do land kind of awkwardly, you're probably going to break one of the arms instead of the hub. Going into that aluminum hub, we have CV style drive shafts that go into metal cups. Having those CV style drive shafts front and rear means you're not going to lose a dog bone, which is really nice. And those differentials have all aluminum gears, so another great upgrade. It looks like the center drive shaft as well is aluminum, and that goes into aluminum drive cups to those differentials front and rear. So as I said earlier, it looks like they completely redid the chassis. First thing that I noticed right off the bat was this floating brushless motor. 3 screws take off this gearbox cover, which opens up to show you a ton of metal gears here. Now I'll zoom in just so you guys can see a little bit better, but this is not your average pinion and spur setup. It looks like there's some sort of reduction or something going on in there, but they're all aluminum gears and there are a ton of them. So right off the bat, I can see here, we can even pull the motor out. So we do have the, I guess, the pinion on the motor here. We also have this gear right here, and then the second gear there, which goes down to another gear which connects to, I guess, the differential. I've never seen something like this before on a Hosim car. I'm hoping these metals are somewhat durable, because with that floating motor mount, I sense a lot of stress is going to be put on these gears. It also doesn't look like there's any adjustability in the motor plate here, so I think this is the only size pinion that you're going to be able to fit on that. It does look like it is well greased though, which is a good thing, so you won't have to take this apart right when you get it. I would run it just as is. I'm not going to do anything to it, but just wanted to show you guys this new setup of gears in the gearbox for one of these budget cars. Like I stated though, this motor is completely floating. There is nothing underneath it, and that seems to worry me a bit, because when you're going off of big jumps and landing hard, this motor is going to have a tendency to flex down, which may move the pinion up and down and could strip those gears easily. So we'll put this thing through its paces at the end of the video, as well as doing the 2S and 3S speed run. But just something to note there, if you plan on jumping this pretty hard, I would try and design something maybe that goes underneath the motor to give it a little bit of a support back here. So moving backwards through our electronics, the brushless motor is connected to a 45 amp brushless ESC receiver combo. Now on the box as well as in the instructions, it does mention that this ESC is 2S and 3S compatible, so we will do speed runs with a 2S battery as well as a 3S battery. Box and online claim that this car can go 60 kilometers an hour, which is about 42 miles an hour. Now, as you know, these Chinese brands tend to fib a little bit on those speed run numbers, so I have a hard time believing this is going to hit 40 right out of the box. We'll see if it can do it on 3S, but I definitely have my doubts on those numbers. Moving on to the remote, nothing too special about it. It is short enough that you could one-hand steer. It's got some foam around the steering wheel, which is nice, and you have your normal buttons on here. We have throttle dual rate, steering dual rate, and steering trim. You can also reverse the throttle and steering. Typical on-off switch there, and you will need to provide your own AA batteries. It does take 4 of them. Something that Hosim has always been good about with providing with their kits is a nice Lipo safe bag to charge your batteries in. You definitely want to charge your batteries in this, especially if you're using something that's not the USB style charger. Also give you some extra body clips as well as nuts for the wheels, a couple screwdrivers, and a hex wrench for the wheels. And of course you have your user's manual with tips and tricks on how to set your car up, as well as all of the part numbers for replacements. Another upgrade in this car is this huge 5200 milliamp hour 7.4 volt lithium ion battery. If you've purchased one of those budget RC cars from Amazon, they give you 2 smaller batteries that you can run with the little adapter to double your runtime. This is a very big battery for one of those Amazon budget cars, and I will say it fits very snugly in this battery compartment here. For those wondering the dimensions of this battery compartment, this stock battery is 4.13 inches long by 1.42 inches wide. Height-wise, it is 1.76 inches, but it comes with this adjustable Velcro strap, so you could fit a battery that's a much taller or shorter for that matter, and not have to worry about that dimension too much. Like I said, this battery is very snug in here, so don't go any longer than this stock one. When we do the 3S speedrun, I'm going to be using this trusty DHD powered 3S Lipo. I think it's about 1500 milliamp hours, but it fits in there and it'll do the job. It won't give us very long of a runtime, but we'll get a couple good passes out of it. And finally, for the electronics, we do have a 3-wire servo, which is nice. This is not a full-size servo, so if you were to upgrade it, I think this is more of a micro servo. It is only 2.2 kilograms, so it is fairly weak. You'll notice on driving this thing straight, it will tend to drift left and right and kind of stick to the way that it's already turning. There is no servo saver on there, so be careful of that. If you land wrong, you're probably going to strip some gears in that servo. But other than that, this car looks really good. There are some great upgrades on it. Again, there are some areas of concern like this motor mount, but let's go take this thing out for some speed runs, and then I think we're going to take it to a skate park or at least a baseball diamond and get this thing dirty. All right, so first things first, let's get this stock 2S battery speed run out of the way, and we'll trim this up. Now again, the box says that this thing should go 68 kilometers an hour, which is about 40, and I have a hard time believing that, but let's see here. Oh, hard to keep it straight. That's full speed. So we'll obviously give that another run, but 28 miles an hour. If you notice there, I have a hard time keeping it straight. The steering wheel seems to have a pretty stiff spring in it, so like when you turn this, it really snaps back, and there's a lot of resistance on it. Let's see if we can get a longer pass here. There we go, full throttle. All right, brakes are very snappy. You can see it starting to pull one way versus the other. I'm not even doing that, it's how it gets stuck. You can pull wheelies on the stock 2S, that's kind of cool. Uh-oh, I hear some snapping noises. That could be the gears. I don't know if you guys can hear it. But let's see here. All right, so straight out of the box, 28 miles an hour on the 2S battery. Not bad, but definitely not the 40 as advertised. Let's see if it was the 3S speed that they put on the box. All right, DHD power batteries in there. We got 3S. Let's see if we can keep this thing going straight here. Again, the trim, wow, it is really pulling. Even though I had it all leveled out. See if we can keep it going straight. Oh, this is gonna be tough. So I don't think this car was really meant for speed runs. You really gotta roll the throttle to keep it going straight. That's full speed. Off-road, don't want to hit the brakes too hard. This thing will somersault. We'll give it one more pass. Man, this thing is all over the place. I do not like that. Pulling again. Full throttle. Oh, and there you go. You just tap the brakes gently, and this thing somersaults. I do not like that either. I wish you could control the brakes, but you can't. Let's see what that speed run was, and then we'll get this thing dirty. All right, so 3S battery, 35.5 miles an hour. Again, not that advertised 42, but still pretty quick. I don't know, this thing on 3S seems like a weapon. Even on 2S, it's pretty uncontrollable. Could be from those shocks, could be from that weak servo. Yeah, I don't think this is really a speed run car, but that's just my opinion. Let's go get this thing dirty and take it off some jumps. So I figured the next best place to take this thing would be some dirt. These tires are a really hard plastic, which means they should be good for dirt. This is the 2S battery. We got the Insta360 camera on there this whole time. Yeah, and this thing really shines on dirt. You can see it's really hooking up a lot better than the asphalt. And it's plenty quick. Yeah, this is where it shines. And another interesting claim that the box says is that this 5200 milliamp battery should last you about a half hour. They're saying a half hour to 40 minutes. Now that is a pretty bold claim. I got this thing, and I only brought this one battery, so let's see how long it lasts. There's a little bump. So guys, I should have known better that we would back this screw out. This is a metal screw into a metal component there, and it backed out all the way. This one is starting to back out as well. So before you run this car, put some Loctite on those. I'm gonna have to bring this back to my house, put a different screw in it, and then we'll take it out to ASP. All right, so we got both Insta360 Go2s running right now. We got the footage on the car as well as on my hat. And you already know the only time we can get into this skate park is when it's raining, because people actually use it. So we'll give this thing a little bash. Again, gotta straighten out that steering. We got some big jumps here. We also got the 1X2 out. Get some shots with that, and let's have some fun with this thing. Yeah.
guys, so what do I think of this car? For 180 bucks, I don't know if I would recommend it. It has some shortfalls. I think the claims that it's goes 40 out of the box, not good. Those friction shocks, not good. I don't know, and part availability is getting better, like I always say for these Chinese cars, but it's never as good as getting something like an ARRMA or a Losi or a Traxxas. I'm a big fan of secondhand RC cars from Facebook or your local hobby shop. It definitely is fun, but for 180 with tax, probably 200 bucks, I would go with something else. That motor design is not going to stand up to, whoa, again, big jumps, hard landings on asphalt like this. It is nice that they are trying something different with this brushless system in a 10 scale car. You can see here, fairly waterproof. I guess we'll send it one last, uh-oh. You can see the throttle control in the air isn't half bad. I keep making sure we have four-wheel drive after I do one of those big jumps. And it looks like something got dislodged. Oop, our front CV style dog bone there. You can see here, it is still attached there, which is nice. You don't have to go looking for it, but it did pop out on that big jump. Ooh, we got some cracks all along the front of the body. Hopefully you guys can see that. Other than that though, it did hold up pretty well. That weak steering servo, again, I would have to upgrade a lot of stuff on this car to make it what I feel is pretty durable. So Hosim, if you're listening, upgrade that servo, upgrade these friction shocks to oil filled, and maybe put some sort of brace underneath that motor. That is going to be a real sticking point if you're trying to jump this thing pretty hardcore. So what do you guys think? Is it worth the 200 bucks? My vote is probably not. I'll leave a link down below on where you can check it out, all the specs on the brushless motor and electronics and everything else that you need to know about this car. Thanks again for watching. I have a ton of other cars that I'm ready to review. Just need to find the time to do it. So we'll see you in the next one.